WNST in Western Pennsylvania as the Ravens did the Pittsburgh Steelers dirty in a 26-14 victory, but time is short this week, and the Ravens have to go to Cleveland as part of 4 and 5 on the road, and 3 in a row. This guy's covered the Browns for a long time. He's one of our defending champions around here at least twice a year, even though they're getting ready for World Series baseball out there on the shores of the Ohio and the Cuyahoga. Scott Petrick has covered the Browns for a long time for the Chronicle, Telegram, and the Medina Gazette. And, hey, man, you and I talk a lot of bad football over the years. This is as risky a game for the Ravens, and this is a pretty good Ravens team this year, I think, and having Jimmy Smith back and some of the players back, probably Hayden Hurst back this week. But this is not your father's Browns either. I mean, I've watched them dig in the last 4 weeks and really play a competitive brand of football after watching Hard Knocks this summer, Scott.
Yeah, they're better for sure. I think they still have to learn to finish games. You know, they're 1-2-1, and you could easily make an argument they could be 4-0, and that loss to the Raiders in overtime still stings, and the way they let it get away, I think it might be difficult for this team to rebound against a really good Ravens team, or a team that at least looks like it's really good.
Well, they had the game won twice in the last 3 minutes, literally, right?
Well, right.
Yeah.
I know, and they are different, and I think with Baker, it gives them a chance to score and move the ball much more consistently than with all the quarterbacks that came before him. But this team is still in the developmental stage where the margin for error isn't huge. They tend to find a way to lose games or tie games rather than win them, and you need to see them get over the hump at some point.
In the case of Mayfield and getting him onto the field and wherever the promise of Tyrod Taylor was, again, I watched Hard Knocks. We all did. I'm sure everybody in Cleveland was watching that. I thought the rope would be a little longer for Tyrod. I know it didn't go well early on, and we have some affinity for him here, having been here for that period of time. But more than just affinity for Tyrod, I wasn't a Baker Mayfield guy, and even the RV out in the parking lot and all the mess that comes with him and all the baggage that comes from Oklahoma, he clearly has thrown the ball well, and maybe I was wrong about him. Maybe he was clearly better than Rosen and Darnold and the rest of these guys, but I know there was a lot of conjecture about that back in April, and that we'll have years to figure that out, but 1 month into this, he looks like a number 1 overall draft pick in there who is going to make some mistakes, going to be a little bit of a gunslinger, learning the speed of the game and what's going on, but certainly doesn't look like he doesn't belong like, I don't know, Tim Couch or Johnny Manziel or, any number of other Browns quarterbacks over the last 15 years.
That's for sure. And I'm with you. He was not my number 1 guy coming out in the draft, and obviously with the number 1 pick, spent a lot of time studying the quarterbacks coming out. I like Darnold. But I always thought that Mayfield would be good in the NFL because he's smart and he's accurate and he throws a really good ball, and he throws a better ball than I think you can even see on film. When you watch him throw live, the ball comes out of his hand with a lot of zip, a lot of velocity, and I like that obviously in a quarterback. When you talk about Tyrod, nobody expected this move to happen this quick, but Tyrod struggled, then he got hurt. And when you see Baker come in, like he did on that Thursday night game against the Jets, and play well right after Tyrod had played so poorly, I think it was a no-brainer that you had to make the move. So, and I think Baker's ready. We talked so much before the draft about if he's got NFL-ready quarterbacks, he seemed to be the one. He started a bunch of games in college. He's older than Darnold and Rosen and Allen, I think. So, it just felt like, all right, it's okay to turn it over to him right now. And through a game and a half, he's handled himself fine. Now, you did see the rookie mistakes against Oakland. He had 4 turnovers, one of which wasn't his fault, but the other 3 were. And those were 2 huge fumbles in the second half that led directly to Raiders touchdowns. And that's a difference in a game that goes to overtime.
Well, that's what happens when you play a rookie, right? I mean, the mistakes and the interceptions and the fumbles, they are the things that crush you even when you're moving. He'll keep you in the game, passing you forward, but, 1-2 mistakes against a good team, you're going to get beat in this league.
Yeah, you're exactly right. And that's kind of the ebb and flow with Tyrod. Tyrod wouldn't make the big plays that Baker can make, but he also prided himself on not turning the ball over, not taking chances. And I think if you're a coach, that's the kind of the fight, the internal battle you have. But long term, you have to go to Baker, so you might as well live through these mistakes And as long as he's moving the ball, it's a lot easier to live with those mistakes. But that Ravens defense is a tough one for any quarterback, let alone a rookie in a second start. It's going to be interesting to see how Baker handles that.
Scott Petrick joining us here from Cleveland, doing all things Browns, and all of our coverage here brought to you, of course, by our friends at Lee Tessier and the Lee Tessier team, Baltimore's premier realty team, and the folks I trust with my real estate transactions, with over 50 years helping local buyers and sellers just like you, finding the perfect properties and negotiating the best deals. That's what they do. Go to LeeTessier.com and learn more, and you'll be hearing more about what they do. Also brought to you by Royal Farms, real fresh, real fast, the tasty coffee, the best fried chicken in the land. I saw Lodi Nod and Justin Tucker fighting over the chicken suit. Maybe one day I'll get the chicken suit and get to sing some opera about Royal Farms as well. The Western fries, I wouldn't sing about the coffee. I would sing about the Western fries. Download the app, use it when you're pumping the gas, and you too can get your fried chicken and Western fries free of charge. Reminder, Wednesday night, we're going to be at Buffalo Wild Wings swabbing for the Beaumare Registry up in Bel Air in Harford County at the festival. We're going to have Ravens tight end Nick Boyle joining us here, not too far from the Blue Hens, as well as wide receiver Willie Snead. Both of them making first visits out, both of them getting swabbed for the Beaumare Registry for the first time, and for There Goes My Hero. Show starts at 7:30 on Wednesday night. We would love to see you with some current Ravens up in Bel Air at the festival and Buffalo Wild Wings. Scott Petrick joining us here from the land of Cleve, talking all things Browns. What did you make of Hard Knocks? I think for any Ravens fan that was tuned in, there were some familiar faces. Obviously, Hugh Jackson and Tyrod Taylor and some guys we knew, but also some introduction. Myles Garrett's going to be a hell of a football player once this defense starts to mature. And I'm not a Greg Williams guy from Bounty Gate and whatnot, but clearly an accomplished coach. And I think on the O and D side, whether it's Haley and Greg Williams, you got some guys with kind of a bad attitude there, kind of instilling that to the football players.
I thought it was fun. It adds to my workload. All of a sudden, you're writing Tuesday night at 10 or 11 o'clock because something's going on. But I thought it was great that fans got to see behind the scenes, got some insight into their team. I think it caught the Browns at the right time because instead of being stuck in a 5-year, 10-year down period, at least the organization feels like it's on the way up, and that's John Dorsey, it's Baker Mayfield, it's Jarvis Landry, those difference-making type guys in your organization, and they wanted to show that to the world, and I think they did, and I think they came off well. I do think one of the points that bears watching the rest of the year is that Todd Haley, Hugh Jackson dynamic, and you saw some. They knocked heads a little bit in one of the early meetings when Haley says, "Hey, we can't let these guys sit. We can't give them days off." And he said, "Hey, it's my bus, and we're going to give guys days off if I want to." And you see that come up from time to time, where I think they have a difference of opinion on some key issues, and it's going to be interesting to see if that rears its ugly head if they lose more. If they win, then that'll go away. But if the losing starts and they can't figure out a way to get over the hump, you could see some conflict, I think, between Hugh and Haley.
Well, and I think that's sort of the built-in dynamic of a team that hasn't won, and leaving Hugh Jackson there to resurrect the thing or right the ship or make it better. If he does make it better this year, it's how much better is it for ownership there. And, one thing we haven't heard much of is from the Haslams, right? I mean, they have traditionally been the worst owners in the National Football League. Not only that, some off-the-field issues and drafting problems and not identifying real football talent evaluators, and that Sashi Brown disaster that they had going on there the last couple of years. Hugh seems like he survived it, and maybe he will survive this. I don't know how many wins it takes or how much improvement, but they're already an improved team.
Yeah, for sure they're improved, and a lot of that credit must go to John Dorsey. In fact, probably all that credit should go to John Dorsey because it's about the roster. I don't think Hugh's made any massive change. I haven't just seen any evolution in him, really. I've seen the change in the roster.
Better ingredients from the supermarket.
Yeah, right, and that just leads to better play on the field. It's that simple. But the thing about Hugh is, you're right, he survived 1-31, which is unfathomable. And so if you survive that, then you got to think, well, man, he can survive 5-11.
Or 6-9-1. They can't be 11. They have to have the one. I thought after yesterday, I thought they were going to be like 6-6-4 at the end of the year because I thought they were destined for another tie.
Oh, I did too. And that 10-minute overtime goes in a hurry, number one. But you're right. I keep forgetting the tie, even though I've written about it for 4 weeks. Right. So if they finish 4-11-1, you would think that wouldn't be enough for Hugh to keep his job, but I don't feel comfortable saying that when he kept his job after 1-31. The Haslams love him, and they feel like he's the right guy. The question becomes, if they continue to lose, when does John Dorsey step in and say, hey, you got to bring somebody else in?
Well, for Chubb and Hyde, they're going to present something for the Ravens this week. And I know you watched the Ravens play on Sunday night against the Steelers. Very impressive road win for the Ravens. They couldn't get out of their own way against Cincinnati on short rest. But this is a better version of the Ravens coming into Cleveland. But I think there's grave concern around here about what the Browns are going to bring in a home game against the Ravens. And certainly offensively, they have been much more effective.
Yes, and they have better playmakers, and there will be excitement in the stadium for Baker's first home start. So, there are worries for Baltimore, and Jarvis Landry is a real receiver. And the combination of Carlos Hyde, Nick Chubb, and Duke Johnson presents problems. And I think there's no way the Ravens won't see more of Nick Chubb this week. He had 3 carries against the Raiders. 2 of them went for touchdowns, I think 41 and 63 yards. He had 105 yards and 3 carries, and that was it. So I would expect Todd Haley to use him more. And, they have pieces, but what they don't have is the number 2 receiver to go with Jarvis Landry. That was supposed to be Josh Gordon, and obviously they traded him. Antonio Callaway, the rookie, had a tough game against Oakland and then looked like he got hurt near the end. And so they just, feels like besides Jarvis Landry in the running game, they kind of ham and egging it in the passing game, and I just don't know how long that lasts if you got to scheme guys open and you can't rely on a guy that had a ton of drops in Oakland. So they still need to get better, but they're way better than what they were the last 2 years.
I don't know that I've seen anything in modern football quite like the Josh Gordon thing, Scott. And then just to throw him out the door 2 weeks into and the Patriots no less, him catching passes there in the red zone. A fascinating case study in Josh Gordon. Anything you want to say about that? Because, you probably wrote more about him than off the field than he ever played, for sure.
Sure. Well, yeah, it's my first thought is what a lot of wasted potential with the Browns. We saw him in 2013. He was the best receiver in the league. He was an all-pro. He led the league in receiving yards, and he missed the first 2 games under suspension. And you thought, oh my gosh, this guy is going to be something for the next 5-10 years. And then he wound up being suspended for most of the next 4 seasons. So, 4 seasons. So, just a lot of wasted potential. I think Josh is way smarter than people give him credit for. If you ever sit down and talk to him, his vocabulary is phenomenal. He gives thoughtful answers. But it feels like to me, and this is an amateur psychiatrist, he struggles with success. When he has success, he doesn't deal with it well, and we know the addiction issues. And he's just unreliable, and the timing was weird, but I understand the Browns' frustration and the Browns saying, hey, we're done with this guy. We just can't trust him, and we can't be let down by him anymore. And I'm fine with that decision, and I'd be stunned if he were a long-term answer in New England. That doesn't mean he won't have, a 100-yard receiving game or a 200-yard receiving game, but I think at some point he's going to be unreliable in New England. Now, I hope it's not. I hope he turns his life around, but the Browns didn't feel comfortable that they could trust him and that he would be on the field for them, and I'm not sure why that changes just because he goes to New England.
He is Scott Petrak. He covers all things Browns out in the land of Cleve at a couple of papers, the Chronicle Telegram as well as the Medina Gazette. You can follow him out on Twitter at Scott Petrak. That's Petrak. All of our WNST coverage brought to you by our friends at Strategic Factory. Now, y'all seen I get some printing done, whether it's shirts, hats, Get Nasty signs. All of that can now be done under one house in Owings Mills at Strategic Factory. We'll be telling you more about all all the things they do to help companies brand, market, and get better because they're good at it. StrategicFactory.com. You've been seeing them at the Ravens games. We'll be telling you more about them later on in the week. Also brought to you by Buffalo Wild Wings in Bel Air, where we're swabbing for the Bone Marrow Registry on Wednesday night. We're going to be joined by Ravens tight end Nick Boyle with some Blue Hens, as well as new wide receiver Willie Snead. Both of them factored in the victory on Sunday night out in Pittsburgh. We'll be doing that for There Goes My Hero. It happens Wednesday night at Buffalo Wild Wings in Bel Air. Hope to see your face in the place. Also Thursday morning, Cole Roofing sponsors our community and charity series. Had such great chats last week about Spooktacular happening up in Harford County, and out of tragedy coming incredible light for the Hurd family. I got other stories. O.J. Brigance and the Brigance Brigade getting together this week to honor O.J. on his birthday, which is near my birthday. We're both Libras, which I dig. So big thanks to Cole Roofing for helping us spotlight great stuff going on with the community and the charity world here in Baltimore. You can learn more about what they do at Cole Roofing and Pfister Energy. And Billy Cole's going to join us later on in the week. Scott, baseball fever out there, right? I'm coming into town this weekend. I was kind of hoping the Indians would be at home. They're not. They didn't have near the best record, but I guess the town's a little buzzed up right now on Tribe fever, and I'm expecting to probably see a little bit of that on Saturday and Sunday, right?
Oh, for sure. And if you stick around until Monday, you can see a game. That's when Game 3 will be against Houston. Yeah, people are excited, and I think it's a weird Indian season. And I get so caught up in the Browns that we knew they were going to win the Central Division forever. And I think your interest wanes a little bit when it's taken for granted and you clinch early and you're not even fighting for anything. They knew they were going to be going on the road to start the ALDS, but I think it ramps back up over the last week, and now you start to get excited about it. And baseball playoff is phenomenal, and Cleveland's experienced it the last few years, and it came so close a couple of years ago in the World Series to Chicago. That I think people are excited. But this team is flawed, so they need to. It'll be a surprise if they go far. Now, if they can beat Houston in that first round or win a game in Houston, I think people will really get excited because with this pitching staff and in an improved lineup with Josh Donaldson, there's a chance that they can make a run. But we've seen this team struggle. Like, they haven't played great ball. Like last year, they went on a 22-game winning streak. We just haven't seen that this year. So maybe, as opposed to last year, maybe they put it together in October as opposed to falling apart in October.
Well, then there's the LeBron hangover, right? I mean, Cleveland's going through a lot of change. Scott, I was out there this summer. I was telling some of your other cohorts out there in the Cleveland media how nice your town has become. And I was never a guy kicking Cleveland, but I've been going to Cleveland for 32 years since the Elway Drive game. I was out there when we stole your football team. I was out there for all the, the Hargrove, Manny Ramirez, Eddie Murray, Oral Hershiser games back in the 90s. Cleveland has improved, but I think a lot of it was about LeBron, and I know the Republican National Convention was part of that a couple of years ago, but LeBron has left a better metropolis behind, and I don't want to say it's LeBron has made the city better. I think that's disrespectful to the police and the city council and the mayors and all the people that go into it, but it is an improved town, and I think LeBron and what the Cavaliers have represented there over the last decade and a half has certainly left behind good things, and I always hope for that for sports. The Orioles have not made Baltimore better, I promise you that. I mean, they just haven't, and because they don't bring people downtown, but I think what Cleveland has done with the sports renaissance there, where the Browns are sort of number 3 in some way, but will always be number 1. But when the Indians and the Cavs have gone well, as they have recently, it's left behind a nice little residue for the town, I think.
Yeah, and there's been growth throughout, and you see different pockets of downtown pop up, the Tremont section in Ohio City and East Fourth. There's a lot of places to go, and the food scene is big time. And part of that is LeBron, that you could build a restaurant or open a restaurant downtown Cleveland, and you knew, 50, 55 nights a year, there are going to be a lot of people downtown to go see LeBron. And that will change, obviously. And, the Cavs won't be as bad as they were the first time LeBron left, and they'll probably be borderline playoffs, but it's going to be a big difference. And there won't be the same buzz downtown, but obviously the city hopes and the restaurant owners hope that the Indians continue to win, and there's no reason to think they won't. They're run really well. And then you have the Browns, and people always love them, but if they start to win some games and Baker turns out to be legit, then people will be Through the moon.
Well, I will be in the land of Cleve this weekend here. Over under on Browns wins. I mean, where do you see this thing going? I mean, are you bullish that they are better and they're not going to get blown out much this year? Because certainly staying in games is nice. Losing games in Oakland, that sucks. But having leads with 2 minutes left to go, there hasn't been a whole lot of that for Cleveland the last decade, really.
Right, especially in the last 3 years in particular. There was hardly any of that. I do think they'll be improved. I've flip-flopped a little bit. I started the season thinking 6-10, and then after watching the 1-1-1 start and Baker's performance against the Jets, I changed it to 7-8-1. I thought Oakland was a game they'd win, but I think they're going to be 5, 6, 7 wins somewhere in that area, and that's a big improvement. And I think the best case scenario is they're still contending for the AFC North in November and December, and that we haven't seen that since 2014, and before that was 2007. And I think there's a chance because as good as Baltimore and Cincinnati have played, I think they are flawed teams still, and I think this division could come down to the end, and I think it could be 4 teams right around 500 when we get to December, and it'd be something else if the Browns are one of those 4 teams.
Boy, the Steelers look like a shell, right? Literally.
Yeah, they're tough for me to figure. I cannot write them off. I liked them a lot coming into the year. I didn't think the Le'Veon thing would linger like it has.
Neither did they.
Antonio Brown issues. Right. I mean, I thought they were a team that could go to the Super Bowl. I really did. So, but I think it's too early to count them out. I think Ben, I think people want to write him off too early. I think he's still got a couple years left in him. So I think they make a run. And like I said, I think Baltimore and Cincinnati are better than people thought. So you could see a lot of teams hanging around 9-7, 10-6 when it's them.
Scott, always a pleasure to check in with you. I hope to see you out in the land of Cleveland. I still haven't been to the Christmas Story house. I got a free day on Saturday. I'm going to do the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame. But as many know, I have the Christmas Story leg lamp in every shot here that I do. It is my official studio lamp around here. So I'll get out there and eat a little Mabel's barbecue and get out there and find my way through the new flats. I enjoy my time in Cleveland, and I'm going to enjoy this football game this weekend. Very, very competitive version of the Browns and a very, very hopeful version of the Ravens coming into Cleveland this weekend. Let's play some football while we watch some baseball. How about that?
Great.
Well, they have hope in Cleveland on Monday. We don't have that around here. Scott Petrak covers all things Browns out for the Chronicle Telegram and the Medina Gazette. You can follow him, and thousands do, at Scott Petrak. That's Petrak. No one covering the Browns better than Scott. You can find me out in the buyatoyota.com audio vault 24 hours a day from anywhere in the world on your mobile device by downloading the TuneIn radio app. We do come in crystal clear from anywhere in the world. Our morning newspaper delivers digitally each and every day to your email inbox at 7 a.m. That is all brought to you by Planet Fitness and PlanetFitness.com. It is always $10 a month. They're always judgment-free. They always got the lunk alarm out. And now the kids are back to school, $10 a month. Get on the treadmill. Get in the gym. There's a Planet Fitness right around the corner from you. Also, the Maryland Million happening on October the 20th. I'll be 50 by then. That's at Laurel Park. And the Maryland Jockey Club, they sponsor our morning newspaper each and every morning at 7 a.m. Make sure you get that delivered to your email inbox. Make sure you get down and see the new Laurel Park. It's fantastic. Circle your plans there on October the 20th. Go down and participate in the Maryland Million. It'll be a great weekend down in Laurel. Last but never least, any breaking news happens first on the WNST Tech Service. That's all brought to you by Coons Ford of Security Boulevard. Dennis Colatzos is here on Thursday getting you ready for the weekend, and the 3-1 battling Baltimore Ravens heading back off for the second of 3 straight road games this week in Cleveland. Next week in Nashville for my 50th birthday. We're looking forward to a little whiskey tour down there. And we're looking forward to Wednesday night as well. We're going to be at Buffalo Wild Wings in Bel Air on Wednesday night. We'll be swabbing for the Bone Marrow Registry. We're going to bring out wide receiver Willie Snead, formerly of New Orleans, as well as tight end Nick Boyle, formerly of the University of Delaware. Show starts at 7:30. We'll be swabbing for the Bone Marrow Registry and for There Goes My Hero. Come on out, give a spit, say hello to the players, and let's feed the 3-1 Baltimore Ravens. We'll be at Buffalo Wild Wings at the Festival in Bel Air Wednesday at 7:30. All of it brought to you by Freedmont Mortgage. Don't make a 30-year mistake by choosing the wrong lender. You need the right lender. You need Carl Delmont and our friends at Freedmont Mortgage. Buying, selling, or just thinking about it, the education is there for you at Freedmont. I am Nestor. We are WNST.net, AM 1570, and WNST, Towson, Baltimore, and we never stop talking Baltimore sports.